listeners from within the United States of America, Africa, and around the world. My name is Smart Mado Ajaja, the anchor of Nigeria Now at ONN and the Nightingale Radio International, and the convener of Open Nigeria and Africa Unite. Good afternoon. It is 3:45 p.m. Central Standard Time here in the United States of America. Good day, good morning, good evening, and good whatever it is, wherever you are. Today, the world celebrates the independence of the United States of America from Imperial Britain on this day, yes, July 4th, 1776. Yes. And the problem started. Well, let's give a brief anthology or analogy of what took place. Yes, 1776. The agitation started in the early 1770s when the Americans thought that the British Parliament was becoming obnoxious to the extent of taking away their freedom. Yes, yeah, the colonists became agitated. Yes, that the British Parliament, yes, little British that they call Great Britain, and actually a great part of what has made the world to be dysfunctional. That little country they call Great Britain. I don't know what makes it great. Yes, that has been oppressing the whole world with its European brothers in that little part of Europe that is not even the size of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Yes, their industrial revolution became a global emergency that needed raw materials from around the world, to feed their voracious industry. But we're going to be talking about that as it affects especially Africa. So their tirade started with the export of slaves, from Africa, to where they call the New World. That is what became later the United States of America, the Americas, the North America, where they had plantations, sugarcane plantation, all kinds of plantations there that needed slave labors, cheap labor, to feed their farms, and through their exploitation of mankind, humankind, that has still not stopped to this day that we see. So the Americans became angry. Some of the colonialists, actually were from Imperial Britain. They came from there, from all over Europe, to set up this plantation that later on became the United States. Their parliament, the British Parliament, became nasty and was doing everything to take the freedom. So the rebellion started that led to a civil war, which ended the Declaration of Independence today on the 4th of July, 1776. Yes, United States was to become later, not not too distant, was to become the greatest power, yes, on the surface of the earth till this minute. How did they do it? What was responsible that they were able to totally and completely extricate themselves from the bondage of Imperial Britain? Yes. Why? What happened? So nearly after 100 years, after 1776, they started the course from African slaves, from taking slaves from across the world into their new world. That was how the 1884 um, their conference, the Berlin Conference, that took place in 1884 in Germany under Chancellor Bismarck took place. And that was how they started the process that brutalized Africa, the demarcation or the strangle, yes, yeah, the the balkanization of Africa into entities that were to be eternally confused the same people who now became enemies of themselves. Yes. So that is where we are. So what I'm talking about, what we're going to be talking about today, on this very historic day, is the independence of the United States from Britain and the so-called Greek gift of independence of African countries. Why Africa is still in the stranglehold of Imperial Europe and America is totally free and actually reduced the whole of Europe to a conquered vassal ally that takes direction from them. Britain cannot do anything outside Britain without seeking the consent of the United States. So the slave right now became the master. So why can't we replicate that in Africa with all that we have in natural and mineral and human resources? Yes, we have the youngest population on earth. We have about 1.5 billion people in Africa, mostly young. Over 70% of our population, the population of Africa, is young people. Why have we not been able to harness our resources? Why has Africa been at war like a schizophrenic against himself? Why is it that the African people have not been able to establish a financial system? They have not been able to establish a system that they are able to trade with one another. Why is it that when someone wants to make a telephone call from Cameroon, he has to route his call to France before he can talk to somebody, a fellow Cameroonian, or he can talk to a fellow African? These are the things that we should be examining right now. Why am I the man who is from Ivory Coast? What does he see himself as a different man? He sees himself as a French man and not an African man. The Congolese sees himself more of a French man than a Congolese or an African. The same thing goes to the Gabonese. They make them see themselves as French people. Well, we are a little bit different from the areas that were colonized by the British people. We don't see ourselves as such, but we love to go to Britain, spend all our country's budget, and go and put into the economy that actually has nothing. The economy thrives on exploitation of Africa. They ain't got nothing. The only thing they have is that their pound sterling with the head of their king. That is all Britain has. Nothing. That landlocked country, without nothing. That's how they are able to manipulate the whole world, and how the Americans have been able to remove themselves from their control. Is what the Africans must learn and do now with their vast mineral and natural resources, coupled with their underutilized human resources. What can we do as Africans? This is why today is very, very important. And this is the reason I am making this broadcast. Having, been around the world and lived in the United States to see how the systems run here for the benefit majorly of the people as against what is taking place. Where in Africa, they say they gave us independence, but our independence is poverty. Our independence is misery. Our independence is blood. Our independence is starvation. Our independence is mass death. Our independence is just hell. What is the meaning of the independence of African states? What is the meaning of the independence of the black people in Africa? What is the meaning of the kind of hell that the people of Africa live through? What is the meaning of having puppets as leaders across Africa? What is the meaning of the fact that Africa, with all its arable land, cannot feed its people? What is the meaning, for instance, that Nigeria is stagnated for 63 going to 64 years with no defined type of leadership that can rally the people and lead them in the right direction, and by extension, lead Africa out of the kind of jungle it is in right now. With everything that she has, this is the question we must ask ourselves, especially the younger generation of Africans. Why is it that African leaders, when they are invited by a little boy like Macron, they'll be falling over one another to go to Paris, to be lined up as puppies in elementary schools, to be dictated to by that little boy and his allies from around Imperial Europe? Why is it that Africans have not been able to graduate from this university of imperialism? Yes, that our forefathers, our ancestors, starting with Marcus Garvey, who inspired the struggle for the decolonization of Africa. They must be wailing and crying in their graves for being stabbed in their backs by those who came after them, for not taking Africa in the direction they wanted it to grow. Almost 80 years after, something is not right. Are we retards that we cannot think? We have been in this classroom. Every time we cry cap in hand, going to America, going to Europe to beg for arms. Sadly, from what was stolen from us, from what these people come into our countries to take away, they come back with audacity to tell us that they are giving us aid. How will you be giving aid to someone that is richer than you but is not smart enough to know for generations that he has been a victim of robbery? That is the question the younger generation of Africans should be asking. Why do we have the type of leadership that cannot rise and stand and speak for the people of Africa? Why are we not able to articulate an African agenda? Why did we abandon the vision of our founding fathers, who saw what is happening today, nearly 90 years ago, that the only way forward for Africa to maintain its territorial integrity and for the people to maintain their human dignity or restore it, because it has been a subject of battery for over 1,100 years, taking cognizance of 700 years of Arab slavery and 400 years of imperial European slavery. Our ancestors, our founding fathers of modern day Africa, I'm talking about Kwame Nkrumah, I'm talking about Modibo Keita, Sekou Toure, Emperor Haile Selassie, Jomo Kenyatta, and the rest of them. They are crying. And the younger ones that came later, Thomas Sankara cried and he was murdered. And the people of Africa could not rise up. And they kept on bringing new puppets. Why is it that Africans cannot choose their leadership? Why is it that Nigerian presidential candidates have to go to Chatham House to make a case for their presidency over an African country? Yes. Why do African leaders have to be invited to Moscow? They are going to Japan. They are on issues pertaining to Africa. Those people cannot come to Abuja. They can't come to Ivory Coast. They can't come to Accra. They can't come to Johannesburg to discuss matters of serious importance to Africa. Africans have to be the ones running helter-skelter like dogs without respect. They move them around like robots in pallets. They move them around like idiots. And none can ask questions. None can ask questions. None thinks about the people he is leading. None thinks about the next generation of Africans. And this is what must stop. And what a day to stop it. What a fight for a people who are determined to set themselves free. A day like this that the American people chose to celebrate. And as we speak, it is being celebrated as if this independence took place yesterday. Yes, it is ever new. Every generation has a way of making it fun. They don't toy with it. They don't joke with it. Now, why do we have scrap of independence in Africa? Why, in spite of all that we have, we are the poorest people in the world? Chinese right here, within a space of 50 years, have turned their country around. The Indians are doing so, the same thing. And the rest of the world is moving forward. Why is it that it's only Africa that is that retarded? Why is it only Africa that is housing all different types of foreign military installations on its soil? Who are they protecting? What are they protecting? Who has the African people under attack or under fear? Who is promoting the chaos in Africa? Who is promoting the strifes? Questions for us Africans. Why are we not asking these questions? Yes. Why has Africa become the battleground for Islam and Christianity, driven by African forces? Why are we not asking questions about the concept of God that was sold to us? Why? Why? It looks like some young Africans are beginning to ask these questions, but we are not asking it enough. Look at what is taking place in Kenya. Look at what has taken place in Burkina Faso. Look at what has taken place in Senegal. What has taken place in Mali and Niger. We are not asking enough questions here. And this is the reason for this. And you African today watching me, and all you lovers of Africa, and people from oppressed countries around the world, this is the question you should be asking yourself. Why are your countries stagnated? Why are we not moving forward? Why is it that the best never lead African countries? Yes, why is it that we never have the best leading our countries in Africa? Why do we have a drug dealer? A drug dealer that has been prosecuted here and found guilty in the United States. Why is he our leader in Nigeria? Why is a terrorist the vice president of Nigeria? A huge mastermind of terrorism, in whose house the bombers of the United Nations building in Africa, in Nigeria, were caught. Why is he the vice president of Nigeria? Why is a fraudster who never won an election, he wasn't even on the ticket, the Senate president in Nigeria? Why? Why? And want to be United States. Some Nigerians called me yesterday to ask me why Nigeria cannot be like United States. And I told him why Nigeria is stuck. Because we love criminals in Nigeria. We love corrupt men. We love evil men. Our tribal instinct don't allow our country to produce the best type of leadership that have the hand and mind and heart to serve the people of Nigeria. Look at Nigeria from 1960 to now. Show me one Nigerian leader. Show me one. Nearly every country has one that the people of the country will lay their lives down and defend. Show me one leader from Nigeria. Show me one. There is none. And we have continued this trajectory. And we don't want to see an end to it. Even as millions of people are starving and are in extreme poverty. Even while all social vices have their headquarters in Nigeria right now. Yes, threatening the continental security. Why is it now we are not interrogating ourselves? Why are we not interrogating our history? Why are we where we are right now as Africans? What a historic day to ask these questions. We must do what the Americans did in between 1770 and 1776. We must stand and unite against our imperial enemies. They are increasing now. And the scramble, the second scramble for Africa is intensifying. We have just little time to act before something that we regret forever will happen to that continent. Beautiful continent, edifice of a continent with everything. Why are we so poor in Africa? I speak to Nigerians that I know so well. We have been so docile. And I think because we did not really struggle for independence the way others struggled. We don't understand the meaning of freedom. We don't care if it is taken away from us. Yes, the British Parliament tried to take the freedom of Americans away from them. And they resisted them roundly and squarely, defeated them in a civil war to set themselves free. Why is Britain still deciding the future of the whole of Africa? Why is Europe? Why is little France? Why has little France had what they call its colonies for how many years? Since 1884. Stealing over 500 billion US dollars from those countries. Those countries have no central banks of their own. Their central banks, the Central Bank of France, banks their money. And you say you are free, and you say you are independent. Where is the independence of the African countries? And when we stand up, they mobilize NATO. They mobilize their military forces to hush us, to silence us. Our founding fathers wanted the United States of Africa to stem the tide of what is taking place today. A United States of Africa with one economy, with one reserve bank, without borders, and with one military. Who can beat that? An Africa that is a country of a people with the same skin color, the same historical background, without borders, to trade and do business with themselves and be happy. If Europe can unite and call themselves European Union with no borders, they know the importance of that. They know the importance of regional integration. Because they are landlocked, they don't have a lot. They unite to hold Africa down. They unite to keep the African people divided. They unite to exploit the people of Africa and their continent. Yes, what runs Europe 100% comes from Africa. No Africa, no Europe. And that is why they want to keep Africa retarded. That is why they want to keep Africa dysfunctional. And that is why they want to keep the Africans as a people, like rabbits, like a crabs in a bucket, who don't want to seek genuine and total freedom. I speak to the young generation of Africans, especially those who are aspiring to be to be leaders. You may want to ask yourself some questions. Why do we see gigantic buildings, nice places in Europe with beautiful skylines, and we don't have, all we have is ghettos in Africa? We who have everything, we who have is supposed to have gold, our road should be paved with golds, but we don't have a damn thing, and they laugh at us. Poor people, they call us poor Africans. The Africans are so poor. And the same people who come and defraud their own system to evade taxes come to Africa and go to the worst places in Africa. They never see anything good in Africa. They go to the worst places, arrange some children, feed them a couple of grains of beans, and then take pictures of them, and come they say that they are helping Africa. What is wrong? All their NGOs, majority of them are not doing real NGO work. They are promoting and sponsoring terrorism in Africa. Yes. Did we know before now that Boko Haram was the handwork of France? When I first said it, Facebook closed my account. Yeah, they closed it in perpetuity because I spoke about it. Now, this is where we are. Africa, we have suffered. Africans, we must graduate from this university. We must graduate from this elementary school. We must graduate from this high school that we have been. Our parents went through it, they did not graduate. We rode right into it, we are not graduating. Something is happening, something is not right. Does it mean that we have learning problems? Where is the problem, if not us? Why are we not looking inwardly? Why are we not examining ourselves? Why are we not interrogating ourselves? Why are we not interrogating our history? Why are we not peeping into our future? What future are we going to leave behind the younger generation that we have today? Mostly confused. Most of them have been through school, and they come out without jobs. Millions of them. I can speak about Nigeria, but I know that it's not different in other African countries. Why are we packing ourselves like sardines, taking risk, going into raft boats to find ourselves in Europe, Italy, and other European countries, where we are kept in concentration camps and being chased around by their security forces as if we are animals? Yes, they create this hell through the purpose that they impose on us as our leaders, to drive our people into extinction, to drive our youth into exile. It's time. Why are we not asking questions? What a memorable day to ask these questions. We must ask the Americans, what did you do? If we cannot read, like I have read, to find out what they did to set themselves free. Why can't we be truly free? Why can't we be totally free? What business has some African countries with being in a British Commonwealth? What good is it doing to us? Are we Britons? Are we British? We are Africans. Why can't we come and build a real African Union? Truly, why? We don't even want a union of collaboration. Why can't we build one country out of Africa? Build a country in Africa. Yes, why are we not doing that? Why are we not doing that? You see, the United States is bigger than the whole of West Africa. 50 states. If you go to those places, from one state to the other, nobody discriminates against you. Nobody asks you about your tribe. Nobody cares about your religion. What they care about, what can you give? But in Nigeria, what are we doing? So an Igbo man goes to Lagos. So stupid Yoruba people will come and be telling him that it's their land, as if they are doing him a favor. Then why are we a country? Yeah, we must demolish all these barriers that are holding us down. The same thing is happening in the north. In America, there's no traditional ruler to worship. There's no sultan who will think that he's the owner of the United States. There's no emir. There's no religious leaders. There are no religious leaders who come and become overbearing on the American people. A lot of many religious leaders from Nigeria and the rest of Africa would be in jail by now if they were operating in the United States. Because their activities are regulated. When they are seen to be misleading the people, the system stands up for the people. But in Nigeria and the rest of Africa, our people are scared of false prophets, liars, and bigots who will mobilize people to kill one another, kill their brothers and sisters. Something has to give, and that they must give now. We don't have a lot of time. The mobs are on the prowl. They are about to violently jump on Africa and take it over for keeps. We are not going to be able to fight back because majority of our people are hungry. All we can do now is to put an end preemptively before things get out of control. We are at that moment. Thank you, Ibrahim Traore. Thank you, Faye in Senegal. Thank you, Tiani in Niger. We need more revolutionaries, smart revolutionaries, progressive revolutionaries, competent revolutionaries, benevolent revolutionaries with respect for human rights and right to citizenship, with love of country to come to the aid of Africa. However they come, because like in Nigeria, good people never come through elections. You will not win. That is why we must examine the meaning of democracy in Nigeria and perhaps the rest of Africa. Something is wrong. Something must be fixed, and something must give. Our tradition represses the young people. Elders take it all. Elders with a redundant brain. Elders who cannot think beyond themselves. Elders who will take money from Nigeria, the rest of Africa, and go and invest in Europe and America. Elders who will trade off their people for pittances that they get. Yes, we must stop that. Yes, we come from an environment where we have respect for our elders. But we must not continue to respect the elders who repress us, who oppress us, who take everything from our country and leave our country poor and make the people vulnerable. It's time for the African to stand up. It's time, especially the young Africans, to say no. It is time for the young Africans in Nigeria to do what the Kenyans are doing right now. They told their parents, stay away from this. It is not your future that is imperiled. It's our future that is in danger. And their parents obeyed. Yes. Why are we afraid? The Americans boldly came and did what they do. In America, we call it taking care of business. They came and took care of business. It's time Africans, especially the young Africans, took care of business. It's time the Nigerians who are looking at me right now took care of business. Just like Americans took care of business between 1770 and 1776 until that day of their independence declaration. Yes, nearly 300 years ago. What are we doing in Africa? They say we are independent. We can't build roads. We have no industries to support our teeming population. We have no infrastructure. Majority of Africa is in darkness. We can't boast of 24-hour electricity. And the people come from outside to exploit us, to light up their country forever. What is wrong with the African mind? What is wrong with the African people? Today is that day to make this reflection. Today is that day to ask ourselves these very, very important questions. What do we project for Africa 10 years from now? For Africa to remain a beggar, a beggarly continent? For African leaders going cap in hand, begging for aids for what we already have, but which we are not able to activate because of our wickedness, because of our self-hate, because we never choose the right people to lead us, because of our tribalism, because of our religious nationalism, because of our corruption. Yes, corruption. Corruption has become a grassroots problem in Africa. I know Nigeria. I make bold to say of Nigeria, where I come from. Corruption. Everybody, nearly everybody in Nigeria is corrupt. We must move away from these vices. I want to see Nigerian young people who will wake up, who will rise up without asking anybody for help, without asking anybody to pay his way to a place where they are holding protests, without asking me to come and arrange for buses to transport them. You saw the Kenyans. Did you see anybody? Some of them trekked to Nairobi from wherever they were. Did you see their faces? They were business-like. Did you see them cooking while they are protesting? Did you see them killing cows and roasting goats? We are not serious yet about what is taking place. It's so shameful and disgraceful to have a drug dealer, a fraudster, an eminently corrupt man leading the charge for Nigeria. Where is he going to lead Nigeria to? And then a terrorist as his vice president. And they are surrounded by some of the most corrupt and morally bankrupt traditional rulers in Nigeria. How can we have a Nigeria, a country, an Africa, where majority of its young people can't think for themselves because of a retarded tradition? Yes. Why are we having young people who cannot ask questions about their living conditions? All of us to make it happen. Nigerians, Africans, unite. Unite for the benefit of your future. Unite for the benefit of your children, like Bob Marley said. It's not late to start, but we are very, very behind. And we must do something now before our continent falls again beyond redemption. Our forefathers paid a lot of prices to set the stage for the liberation of Africa. We failed them by not continuing in their visionary projection. We failed them by stabbing everything that they believed in the backs. We failed them when we started banishing and binding our ancestors. Yes, we failed them. We failed Kwame Nkrumah. We failed Emperor Haile Selassie. We failed Jomo Kenyatta. We failed Samora Machel. We are even failing Nelson Mandela. We are failing Thomas Sankara. What did they do to us? They put their lives on the line for us to have a continent. They put everything, they put their joy, they put their happiness on the line for us to do, for us to live. And we are failing them. We cannot continue to fail them. We cannot afford to continue to fail them. You young generation of Africans, I'm sure, I don't know if you heard about the story of Patrick Lumumba of Congo, how he stood up and how he was murdered. Not just murdered, they murdered him and dissolved his body. The same people who tell us about human rights, yes, Imperial Europe, who tell us about human dignity and human rights. After killing him, they put his body in a solution of concentrated sulfuric acid, and he burnt. What did he do for standing up for his country? They overthrew Kwame Nkrumah because he was a threat to their exploitation that has gone out of control in Africa today. They troubled Sekou Touré. When they were leaving Guinea, they destroyed all the infrastructures that they had built. Why? Because he refused to sign the extension of French colonialism in his country. They murdered Thomas Sankara because he started championing a new Pan-African movement. They shut down Samora Machel because of his position against apartheid in South Africa. They killed Emperor Haile Selassie in 1975 because he refused to hand over Ethiopia. And in all this, they used people like me and you. It's the black man that they will use. They will arm him, build him a house in France, Belgium. And by the way, you know Belgium, that little Belgium, small Belgium, killed over 12 million Congolese. Belgium, that is not the size of my village, destroyed over 12 million Congolese. Yes. So Africans, why do we forget in a haste? Africans, why are we not looking back at our history? Every country looks back at history. The United States looks back at its history. The citizens are constantly looking back at the history of their country. Why is it that it's only Africans that suffer from this tragic amnesia of their history? Why can't we rise up? Why can't we wake up? Why can't we ask ourselves questions? When is this nonsense going to come to an end? Why should the richest continent on earth be the poorest continent, actually, with the poorest people on earth? We have some explaining to do. Why is it that every time we have an opportunity to elect leaders, we elect our worst? Why are we not looking at these countries to see if there's anyone where they are putting criminals in power? Criminals who cannot do anything for their country. Even little Portugal came to Africa to cause damage. What is wrong with the black man? What is wrong with the African mind? Why can't we think? Do we like hell? Do we love poverty? Do we love misery? Do we love wars like that? And do we know that every bullet that we fire against one another is growing somebody's economy outside Africa? Is Africa manufacturing armored cars? Are we manufacturing aircraft that are used in bombing people? Even AK-47, is there anyone being manufactured by any African country? Why is Africa the dumping ground for this? We go to wars, we destroy our infrastructures after killing millions of ourselves, and they come in. They come in with their companies. They say they want to reconstruct the country. And we pay them money, either in cash or through mineral resources that we cannot even equate how much they are valued. We have a problem. Today is a moment of reflection. We need to be truly independent. We need to be totally independent. We need to call the bluff of Imperial Europe, especially France and Britain. The exact same way America called their bluff to declare an independence on July 4, 1776. If the Americans could do it, we have no reason not to do it and do it even better. Because they don't have a special brain. But the courage and the will to struggle for their liberation. I believe that we have that courage. I believe we can build that courage. We can inspire that courage. Now is the moment to start. It is not late to start. Let us do it. Let's ensure that what is taking place in Kenya takes place across the length and breadth of Africa for the total liberation of the African continent and its people. It can be done, and it must be done. Because if we don't do it, unborn generations of Africans, will judge us harshly. History will judge us so harshly. And the Almighty God will judge us so harshly for not utilizing the dominion that he gave to us. The dominion that translated into our basic human rights. As a people he created, not as slaves, and not as the dredge of the world that we have allowed some people to reduce us into. We must stand up. We are the cradle of the human civilization. We must put our acts together and be the people again. We are willing to work with the rest of the world as equals and no more as slaves and no more as a conquered people. Africans, wake up. Africans, arise. African young people in places of authority with means, wake up for the people. It hurts to see African businessmen want to behave like they are Arabs and that they are Europeans. They join imperial forces with their political class to exploit their countries because they want to be on Forbes as the richest men on earth, but with a people in hell and in extreme poverty. What does your riches? What is the meaning of your riches? If your background is that poor, if people in your country are unable to feed, if people in your country live in hell, what's the meaning of your wealth? If you cannot use it to create jobs. We are not telling you to be giving a handout. Create jobs so that people can earn living wages and be the human beings that they ought to be, and not to be subservient the way it is in Africa. Something is wrong. And that thing we know, we have identified them. We must assert ourselves as human beings. We must assert ourselves as citizens of the world who are equal to anybody, the best from anywhere on earth. We must look inwardly. We must interrogate our history. We must interrogate ourselves. What are we willing to do for our countries? We must interrogate how we choose leadership. Do we sell our votes in crucial elections when the best is supposed to emerge to take charge of the leadership of our country or for our continent? Do we support people, even criminals that we know cannot deliver the dividends of leadership? Do we support them because they are from our places, they are from our tribes, we worship the same type of God? Or we support them because they are the best, who can lead our continent and our various countries with even hands, so that everybody we have free, fair, equal, unlimited, and unconditional access to opportunities? Don't we think it is time we did that? So we can get close, if not surpass, those who come to exploit us to grow their own economies and make lives better for their own people? Yes. The people who call us fantastically corrupt, but those who come to our continent to corrupt our people, to give them access to the mainstays of our economy to destroy. If you are a Nigerian, you know what I'm talking about. I hope you know your NNPC, Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, is gone. Yes, because of our corruption, because of our self-hate, because we love to put retards in positions of authority, because we obstruct our bests from leading our country, because we are so hungry that at that hungry moment, anything goes for us without looking at consequences, such as we are suffering today. Nigeria is grinding to a halt under the evil leadership of a drug baron paired with a mastermind of terrorism. Where are all those emirs and sultans that put Nigeria in this mess? We are not hearing anything from them now. But judgment is going to come. What is taking place in Africa that started in Burkina Faso, I pray and hope that it will go around the whole of Africa, to the extent that we will realize who realize that vision of our founding fathers of building a United States of Africa with no borders, with one economy, with one central bank, with one trunk for communication, with a strong and unified financial system, and with one military. I know the opposition, the enemies will do everything like they have been standing in its way. But if we are determined, if we have the will and develop the courage, it can be done. If we wake up, they are our elders that they must be listened to. If we decide not to listen to them anymore and go with the purpose of progress for our continent, there's nothing stopping that vision from coming into full manifestation in no distant time. There has to be that army of young generation of Africans who must drive it. I am happy that we have one, not just one, we have 2, 3, 4. Yes. We need more Traores in countries across Africa. We need more Sankaras everywhere in Africa. We need more reincarnates of Modibo Keita. We need more reincarnates of Emperor Haile Selassie. We need more reincarnates of Kwame Nkrumah. We need more reincarnates of Patrick Lumumba. We need more, and we need more. We need more. We need more young Africans everywhere in the continent of Africa and beyond to step forward and start advancing a cause for a new Africa. It is possible. It can be done. And I believe it will be done. The road looks dark, but one candle can illuminate a nation through illuminating other candles. Africa must unite. Africa must arise. Africa must rise with courage. Africa must dump its past history. Good only we can look at them and use it as an inspiration to correct ourselves for the future of our unborn generations of Africans. We want an African set of leadership that can stand with the best on the same podium and talk to them eyeball to eyeball without looking down like some of our leaders look down, like little boys when they go to Europe to meet actually little boys. We want an Africa that will look back at its solid mineral and natural resources and its over 1.5 billion people behind them and move with courage to make a demand for respect and dignity of the African people. We need African leaders who will not be afraid of speaking like true human beings. We need African people who are conscious enough to hold their leadership accountable without fear of anything. We need young Africans who will be asking questions about why we cannot graduate from this Imperial High School. Yes, we need some African young people who will line behind the African progressives to set their continent free. It's time to set ourselves free. Like Bob Marley said, he said, set the captives free. Africa must be liberated. And now is the time. We congratulate the people of the United States for their independence that they suffer now. and hope that their leadership must live above the rhetoric of America being the beacon of hope for democracy and rule of law. God bless America. And God. Yes, and for those who just tuned in today, if you have not subscribed to our channel, please do so and share our message. We are for the world. We want to build a world that we have respect for the people of the world, regardless of their backgrounds, regardless of their skin colors, regardless of their races, regardless of their sexes, regardless of whatever their circumstances may have been in the past. We want forging ahead, moving ahead to build that world where we have respect for one another. Bye for now, and happy independence to Americans.